Mish of the Mountains is a concept album based on the story of Mish. After finding her father dead on the battlefield, Mish would drink his blood, attempting to retrieve his soul and return it to life. However, unsuccessful, she would begin to grow hair and feathers and metamorphosize into a monstrous beast, haunting the now Kerry mountainside for 300 years. Many would try and capture this grief-veiled goddess, but it is the gentle harpist, Duv Rui, who would serenade her weary spirit with lyre song, make love to her forestly form, and eventually love her back from the grey grips of grief. Hers is a story of fierce initiation, feminine underworldliness, community, love, death, and life. The first part of the album we call Midgard. It's the comprehension of Mish coming to understand the catatonic event of losing her father.
When I did my research about her, I recognized that there isn't any visual representation of her, so it was really exciting. I just hope that this design points out that opposites exist as one, because this was a really important lesson I learned during the whole design process. I was walking next to water and I saw the water which was really dark but also really white because it was so fast. The final inspiration came through the nature. Yeah, I tried to capture this light and darkness of the flowing water.
Yeah, there's such a mortality in it, which I got instantly. It's amazing. And just in all your work, there's just this beautiful attention to detail, to how the law of nature. So it's this Russian word, the
Искусство.
Yeah, exactly.
We then descend into the Underworld, which is the middle section of the album, and tells the story of the thick black clouds that are surrounding someone in a deep grieving process.
The transition into that world is called Metamorphosizing track, and to achieve it, she wanted the feeling of like everything modulating down a whole step. And I had the idea that maybe instead of actually playing it lower and lower, we actually do it with very speed. Right. So we pitch it like with the tape machine. And then the voices get deeper and all the sounds get deeper and everything gets heavier. There's like 4 parts to the track, and the first is kind of a Stravinsky style piece where it's very choppy, kind of almost like Eleanor Rigby meets Stravinsky meets Rite of Spring. And then the second half of the track is where she's singing Metamorphosizing over and over, and there's like some synth things spinning and some lots of vocalizing from the group that we overdubbed, and the drums kind of get more and more active. It gets kind of energetic, and what happened was we had to actually record it faster and faster, so that as we were going to pitch it down further and further, it would keep the same tempo, but the pitch would just go down. Jessie took it a step further and said, well, instead of it just suddenly going down, which was my thought, like it just goes and we're just there, it's like it happens slowly, so it speeds up and then it bends down, and then it's the same tempo. We actually did this part with a click track, which we never did on the album.
So the performance of the song actually sped up.
Yeah, so every 8 bars or so, it like the tempo would suddenly change for them.
Right.
And then they took a second to get the new tempo, and during that time, I'll be pitching it down.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's this like blurry bar or so after or 2 bars where it's like everything is bending down. And then we get to the Underworld.
Initially, I really wanted snow. There's something about the juxtaposition between the black of Mish, her dress at least, and then the whiteness and the bone deathness of snow. But then it gradually evolved in matured at least into what it became of the location in Ireland. We sort of egged each other on to deciding that, if it's an Irish myth, why don't we just go to Ireland? There was a soft reverence for the landscape, and also just the primality of the landscape sings to you. It's in the wind. There was this hearkening to Buto. There's a beautiful coupling in Buto of movement and form with formlessness and stillness. I think a few days before we decided to go, she had this idea to do her hands black, that we had some glitter, some golden glitter. So when you develop the film in black and white, it wouldn't be gold. There would be a silvery sort of texture, which speaks to sort of the strangeness of the mythology, as in strangeness from the realm of the mortals. There's this otherworldliness.
Woven into the album are 3 instrumental pieces that sort of segregate the sections, and they're all called Barutolo 1, 2 and 3. And that's borrowed from the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and it's the concept of the 42 days that it takes the soul to leave the body. And so that process is also undergoing throughout the process of the album, and by the end of the album, the soul of my father, Mish's father, has moved on. Are you in the river? So then we finally move into the final section of the album, which is the acceptance phase, and that is the part of the story of Mish's story and my story where a new relationship is forged between the departed and the one left in this realm. I think when my father died, I knew I had to transmute this into songs, as it's sort of the way that I heal or that I process whatever's going on in my life. And slowly, as the songs kept coming, I was aware that I was making things that all existed in an interrelated field. And at some point, I found the myth of Mish, and I was like, oh, wow, how incredible to be held by this old story that is about people from a totally different time to me, but speaks to exactly the experience that I've had. And Mish has sort of given me a template with which to hold my own grieving process, but also to weave in different elements. I couldn't have done it without her, I think. Yeah, it's nice. I didn't know I was going to say that. It's just harder now you're not around, and I'm really gonna try, give it all my mind, meet you as your worlds collide. I might be naive, but I figure at least if I look for you,